recording in progress over me. Welcome, everybody. We're really happy that you're here today. We are really excited to share our experiences with you about some pilot programming that we've done. And we are very excited because we have 4 students on our panel, and we know that you're going to want to hear from them the most as they unpack and think about the impact of their applied learning experiences on their transfer trajectories. So we are excited both to welcome you, but we are also very excited to be able to co-present with our wonderful students. So welcome to everybody. This is our team. On the first page, you can see we represent 3 different institutions: the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, Montgomery College, and Howard Community College. And we are very excited because we have a very deep and well-established partnership with these 2 community colleges, and we are always excited about our collaborative work together. All right, next slide. So of course, welcome. Please say hello in the chat and include your name, role, and institution if you would. That'll help us as presenters to know who's in the audience, and we'll be able to respond to the group and think about what your questions might be, and maybe be more prepared to respond to your questions as well. So we look forward to learning about who you are. Since we only have 50 minutes today, we're really going to move fairly quickly and try to give the most amount of time to the students. But we also want to contextualize our work because we feel like the context behind our commitment and collaboration is really important to understand, particularly if there's a seed in our presentation that you feel like could work on your own campus. So we do want to provide some context. And then we're going to look at some faculty or hear from some faculty about their perspectives, and also from some students about their perspectives and takeaways. And then, of course, we want to turn it over to you to be able to ask any questions that emerge for you during our presentation. So many of you have seen this before. It's a well-cited statistic, but it is an important framework for our presentation today. What's our equity dilemma, particularly as it relates to transfer students? So as I said, many of you have seen this before. Over 40% of our undergraduates start in community college, often identifying with groups underserved in higher ed. And about over 80% of community college students seek transfer, which is a remarkable and wonderful number. But where we see the dilemma is when their expectations and aspirations are thwarted, right? And so when we look at those statistics, 25% transferring, 17% in 6 years, we absolutely want to see those numbers be higher than they currently are. So our question is, how do we turn that dilemma into an opportunity, right? And many of us know that collaboration is a big piece of this. So though, of course, students need to take responsibility for planning and making decisions about their futures, we also know that as institutions, we need to take seriously that responsibility for delivering on those aspirations of students who wish to transfer from the community college to the university, and each of us has a role in that. So the way in which we have done this, created transfer equity opportunities within our collaboration, is to think about the different ways we can invest in the future of our educational communities. And I really like thinking about this as an investment, our collaboration as an investment, but also thinking about the ways that our investment can be meaningful and inclusive and really tangible, right? Not just something we talk about, but something that we actually do that signals our commitment to students and their journeys, their educational journeys. The second thing is we really want to engage faculty as transfer equity advocates. We know that advisors and lots of other people have worked tirelessly to help support transfer students. And faculty are very committed to supporting transfer equity as well. And one of our jobs now is to increase and make more visible the roles that faculty can play in ensuring transfer success. And the way that we've done this is with goal 3. We've done many different ways, but this is the way we've engaged faculty, is by creating these adaptable community-based applied learning experiences. Again, remember our goal is to think about meaningful, inclusive, and tangible ways to express and signal this commitment. So this is the tangible place where we've come together in creating these applied learning experiences where community college students are linked to faculty members who are doing research in community-based activities. So I'm just going to talk very quickly about the adaptable model that we've created as a way to engage faculty as transfer equity advocates. And you can see how we've embedded goals 1 to 3 in the way that we've created a transfer equity initiative. And these are the 3 ones that we have piloted, one in public science, one in public stories, and one in public history. And in each one of these cases, faculty have worked together to create a unified thematic investigation around a particular topic. You can see ecosystems for public science. You can see the cross-disciplinary media studies for digital storytelling. And then this idea of public history or unerasing history, making more visible hidden histories has been really important as a thematic investigation in public history. And we're hoping to create one in public education around this idea of nutrition, gardens, and food practices in the future. So we're very excited about that. The way in which we embed these learning experiences is by actually having community college students join as visiting students at the university. So they're engaged in the structure of our university community. They aren't on the outskirts of it, but we actually say, yes, come in, become a non-degree or visiting student. We enroll them in a service learning practicum so that they're having the experience, but also the space to reflect upon it, which is very important. We hire them often as student workers so that they're able to be compensated for their engagement. As we know, many transfer students in particular, but many students in general, need to be able to earn some kind of income to participate in these kinds of activities. So we feel like that's an important equity initiative. And then they participate in some way in community-based faculty research and or scholarly activities. And we feel like this infrastructure taken together provides a way of really including students in our community. They get our university emails addresses, they get access to our learning management systems, they gain access to all our digital and physical spaces. So we feel like it's a way of really bringing them into the community and showing them that we really care about them joining our community. Rather than just telling them, we're trying to show them by including them in these applied learning experiences. And this is just another way of thinking about how we're trying to have the intersection of academic engagement, community engagement, and professional engagement with a research-based activity at the center. But also thinking about how these ideas of scholarship, mentorship, partnership, and stewardship, in this case, both historical stewardship, environmental stewardship, and story stewardship, we feel like is really important. And many of you who've been in transfer will recognize this idea of transfer student capital and aspirational momentum. And those are 2 key things that we're working toward. So it's just another way to think about what we've said. And with that, I want to turn it over to my wonderful colleagues who have collaborated closely with me to create these applied learning experiences so that they can share a little bit about the lessons learned and why these experiences matter for them as faculty members. So with that, whoops, we need to go back 1 slide. Back 1 slide. We're in forward progression.
My apologies.
No worries. It just shows you how we're always forward thinking, right? That's why our slides were progressing without us. As you listen to the faculty and students share, we would all love it if you would post some things in the chat about questions that come up for you, things that resonate with you, things that you're excited about trying. And we'll be monitoring that and trying to pull some of those out as well. But we'd love your active engagement in the chat.
Sarah, am I next? I want to thank my colleague, Sarah Jewett, who introduced me to the idea of a transfer equity fellow, faculty supporter. And I am Amy Froide. I'm the chair of history at UMBC. And the history department had been interested in having more contact and more relationships with our local community colleges, because half of our students are transfer students from these community colleges in the Baltimore area and in other parts of Maryland. Much of that activity before I met Sarah was in the form of maybe transfer student fairs or maybe some information sessions. And I was really searching for a more authentic experience where we could meet students and introduce them to our faculty, to our discipline, and to the methods and debates and issues in the historical profession. So we partnered with Sarah to pilot what had been done by Geography and Environmental Systems in the history department. And so we created a 3-week summer course, an applied learning experience for prospective students, for students who are still at the community colleges in the area. And we decided to focus this on the concept of being a citizen historian. So we know about citizen science, that's familiar to many of you, but those of us in the historical profession who are public historians, and you'll meet too, or have been influenced by public historical thinking, are interested in types of history that gets us out into our communities, working with people and helping them see how history is something that is part of their lives and affects them. And so we created this 3-week course that you'll be hearing a little bit about, and you'll be hearing from some of the students who took that course. And in the end, the results were marvelous. We were able to share history with these students. They became collaborators with us. They produced their own historical research and small snippets. It was very short, a short time period. And I'm happy to say that some of these students chose to come to UMBC. Not all of them majoring in history necessarily, but I think all of them would admit that their experience with public history has really influenced and changed the way they think about their various disciplines. And so I think this is a model that I think a lot of you might be interested in. And so we're here today to show you what we piloted last year, and we'll continue to do this coming summer. So I'm going to turn things over to my colleagues, Denise Meringolo and Nick Bonneau.
Thank you, Amy. I am a visiting lecturer here at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I'm a visiting lecturer in history of science, medicine, disease, and death. So happy classes. But I think the key here to explain what I've been up to is experience. I think that's something that's going to come up again and again, especially with our program. My involvement in this was I took one of the 3 weeks and focused on helping students to build experience confronting serious topics in a group setting, especially as they enter into their upper level classes at new schools. Actually, that's what we're all doing, not just me. But in my case, though, students studied local burials to consider contrasts in the material culture of existing burials, as well as the circumstances behind the obfuscation and rediscovery of hidden cemeteries. This builds on my work as the principal historian of the Arch Street Project and excavation of the First Baptist Church of Philadelphia. So to do this, we shared solemn experiences. We reviewed interviews with descendants of those buried at rediscovered sites like the Laurel Cemetery in Baltimore, and more substantially through in-person visits to the Ellicott Family Cemetery, Friends Burial Ground, and Whipps Garden Cemetery in Howard County, with a strong contrast between those 3 cemeteries as well. And I think in the end, these experiences gave students time to interact, bond with their peers and their professors in what was a safe and fun intellectual environment as they began to consider the evidence of material inequality, historical and present divisions in race, and the unreliability of memory, all among this sort of new group of peers who might be accompanying them into their first semester at UMBC. More often than not, we're accompanying them into their first semester at UMBC. And it ended with students giving a video presentation of their thoughts on this week. Rather than being assignment focused, it was about expression and reaction. And I cannot say enough good things about that. Very happy with our end result. And I'm going to pass the baton, I think, over to Denise and let her talk about that time.
Denise, shall I
you.
do the slide forward for you?
No, this is fine. I'm still here on this one. So I'm Denise Meringolo. I'm an associate professor of history. I'm the director of our public history program this year because I like to have 3 jobs. I'm also the acting director of our Drescher Center for the Humanities. And so as part of this experience for transfer students, I conducted a week with students where I trained them to do oral histories. I actually pre-identified individuals who were willing to do oral histories with students, and those oral histories became part of a digital collection that I had initiated in 2015 called Preserve the Baltimore Uprising. What was important to me in this experience was that students had a project that they could do start to finish within a week. And so I was pretty, our schedule was pretty tight, but by the end of it, they were able to produce an oral history that is a video oral history because we did it virtually, that could become part of a permanent collection. So that's something that they take with them, put on their resumes, can point to in the future. One important takeaway for me, I am a public historian by training and by profession. I was a museum professional before I became an academic. And I'm always surprised when I encounter people, not only students, who say, I never heard of this term public history. So it was lovely to meet students who were engaged in the process, to introduce them to the concept of public history and to the methods of public history before they might arrive on the campus of a 4-year institution where they may or may not study public history. The other thing is that public history is very interdisciplinary. So even if we don't capture history majors, which of course we want to do, I know that I will see students from this experience in my classes. And I think this, for me, what's important is introducing them to a methodology that they can carry across disciplines. It doesn't matter if they're a history professional, so that they become more critically engaged with cultural institutions and cultural expressions, regardless of their majors. For me, the most important and powerful takeaway was how they reflected on their experience. The other thing about how I train students is that I actually tell them that very often process is more important than product. But in this case, their product, I learned so much from that it was really the most powerful portion of the experience for me. So what I thought was important was getting students together, introducing them to public history as a field, training them in a methodology that they can carry with them, and then just learning from them what they took away from it. That's going to impact my teaching going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. I'm up now. I'm going to fast forward to some of our slides here. My name is Jamie Gillen, and I have the unique opportunity to co-lead the digital storytelling internship at Montgomery College. And what that means in this context is that I had the opportunity to come to this material rather organically. First, our internship was built, and then we realized the massive potential that it had for student capital and their agency and their aspiration as they move forward from our community college setting to the 4-year institution. And we've just seen all of our 39 different interns grow remarkably. So I'm just going to share briefly about our program and reflect on it. And then we get to turn over to students, which is really the most exciting part. So we have a 1 semester experience, which we deem, quote, level 1, where our primary purpose is our in-house professional development, as well as paying attention to the needs of our campus, primarily working with students in classrooms, and interns hold office hours to work on their digital storytelling projects that are assigned by professors or in other contexts around the school. Once students or student interns have gone through our on-campus in-house internship, they have the opportunity to apply to become what we call a level 2 intern. And our level 2 interns each participate in a very unique experience with often with pairing with UMBC and this endeavor that we're talking about, where they enroll in the practicum 096, and then they get to work with a variety of folks. We've had them work with folks in the humanities, communications, social sciences, and now this semester starting in with a computer science course and a data science course. So very unique experiences spanning the range of opportunities. And what we're finding as the interns come through this program is that they are so brilliant, and we have quite an open approach to who we welcome into the internships. They weren't necessarily the cream of the crop, although some of them certainly are, when they arrive with us. But by the time they leave us and continue to fly elsewhere and onward, they're just coming with such confidence and more well-identified goals, and shooting farther into the stratosphere than I could have ever imagined that they would go. And it's just a wonderful thing to get to watch and to be able to foster their growth, in addition to the awesome story work that they're producing on an academic level, on a personal level, and digitally as well. So with that in mind, and you can see some of the reflections that we have here on the screen. But with that in mind, I'd like to turn it over to one of our former interns who is currently employed as a public stories lab assistant as we are launching a brand new lab at UMBC with stories at the forefront. So with that in mind, Danielle, it is your turn.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Danielle Costa. I'm a graphic design student at Montgomery College, and I'm originally from Brazil. I came here to America seeking for a chance of higher education as a non-traditional student. And while navigating in this journey, I realized that despite of working really hard in school, the opportunities for further education, scholarships, or career for immigrants and international students were very limited or even non-existent. And with my own frustration with the immigration system, I was also exposed to injustice toward minorities. And that brought me a sense and kind of this thirsty for justice. And when I encountered the digital storytelling internship in partnership with MC and UMBC, as an artist, I was looking for a way to promote social justice and social change through my artwork and also storytelling. And during the level 1 and level 2 of the internship, not only I found confidence in my skills to effectively communicate this message, but also a way of okay, I can do something with that. I can be part of something that is bigger than me. I do have a voice, and that voice can impact more people. So with that, I found this hope not only to fight for myself, to pave this path, but also to fight for my peers, other students, and for the community members around me to also walk through this path. So then I was able to learn, and most important, I was able also to hear other students. And in the midst of that, I found what I believe today is my purpose and mission in life. And today, as Professor Gillen said, I am part of a project for a digital story lab to the University of UMBC, which is the university I'm planning to transfer to. They are really international student friendly, and that tells a lot to me because I feel that I belong there, being an institution that care about immigrants and international students. And seeing this lab coming to life, it just like seems also like a dream come true, because a couple years ago when all of that started, it was just a dream that I could use my voice or my community voice in an amplified way that could impact lawmakers. And now that I see this project again coming to life, I see also an opportunity of relevance and a transformation to the Baltimore area and the DMV area. And also, because of all this network, I was also able to get a lot of experience. And now I also part of the Office of the President at Montgomery College. I also work for the Office of Equity and Inclusion, in which I'm also able to advocate for my peers and students in the community, hands-on towards racial equity, and also like helping MC working projects as being the first institution on being anti-racist, and also a Hispanic serving institution. So that's all to say that the education and all the doors that it opened for me changed the way, not only how I view life, but also helped me to understand that our voices are indeed able to impact community and also even to change political decisions.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Danielle. And we're going to pop 2 slides back to our science. I think it's our public science. It might be our public history one. Great. And we will now turn it over to Kimberly and Maria. Take it away.
Hey, so I can start. I'm Maria. I'm a current student at HTC, or Howard Community College, in my transfer semester. So I'm doing all of that either to UMD or UMBC. Stand by on that decision. But as you heard from the public history program, we did a lot of field work, and as a public health major, which I didn't know that public history went right hand in hand with that until I was in Professor Bonneau's class. But before this experience, I didn't really have much experience on the field and like in my community. I mean, so ever since I was 16, I was a voting judge in my community, and that was about all I ever did, going out or like canvassing. I didn't really do much of that before this. So I didn't realize how field work, especially in Maryland, was such an important groundwork for understanding what my interests particularly were. And through this, I also started doing my research project about school redistricting in Howard County, and how race played a factor in it, in the outrage. Just because learning about the space that we were going to each of the locations, whether it was the Catoctin Iron Furnace or the Hampton Mansion, we learned about the space that we were in, and how every step that we were stepping on, there was a history behind that step. There was, whether it was a hidden gravesite or whether it was a wayside that was meant to be changed, there was history behind that, and there was history that was hidden. And I realized I really enjoyed this work, and that I really wanted to continue doing something of the sort in my professional career. It made me really want to become an advocate for my community and advocate for historical changes and mansions, or like on waysides to show enslaved history. It taught me how to change the name of, or how I frame certain ideas, such as my own name. I went by Maria for 20 years, but I realized how important it is to go by Maria, which is how my name is actually pronounced in my language. And that came out of the public history program. or learning the difference between saying slaves versus enslaved people or enslaved individuals. That change is so important and it gives so much autonomy to the people in our past in Maryland. So while I was also working on the field, learning this enriching experience, I was also able to work with a diverse array of students and my cohort with Kimberly. All of us had a different background, yet we were all community college students, so we could all relate, but we all came from different backgrounds. And every time we would go to somewhere, every time there was a WebEx meeting that we were at, we would all just sit and chat and talk about where we came from, what we did. And that was so important to learning more about my community and how diverse it was, and learning honestly more about things that I had no idea about. And I don't want to take away from what Kimberly says, but there are some things that I didn't know about, or experiences that I never have went through that were important to other people's lives. So with that, with learning through this experience, with learning through my research and sort of like what everyone else went through, I started to gain the confidence to go into more internships that were on public history or related to the community and advocacy. And I'm happy to say that now I'm interning on Capitol Hill with Senator Sanders, who is, I see the little thank you, who sort of reflects some of the things that I want to be involved in the future. And I'm getting more understanding of how I can change my community through my internship, whether it's learning how to write testimonies, attending hearings, keeping my understanding like the legislation that's going through and whether my representatives support it or not. These are all so important for my experiences and for my career going on. And honestly, that was with working with Kimberly and the other students in a group setting and seeing those diverse perspectives. And with that, I want to pass it along to Kimberly because I feel like I've been talking forever.
Oh, stop. You have so much to talk about. But yeah, speaking of different perspectives, coming back to college as an adult, I'm 35 years old. I went back to Howard Community College as I was working full time, just trying to get my associates, 1 class, 2 classes a semester. And I was really, hesitant in even applying to a 4-year university because I didn't think that I was capable of doing that. But I was given the link to this public history internship between HCC and UMBC. And it just seemed like such a great opportunity to meet some faculty, meet some professors, just get more comfortable in that kind of environment. And it really paid off. The group that we had was so wonderful. I, of course, was the oldest, but it didn't matter. We were all viewed, like our perspectives and our viewpoints were viewed equally. And it was just a confidence booster. And it was really, an important experience for me because, again, coming back to school as an adult, on top of that, I was incarcerated 11 years ago for something that is actually legal now in most states. But, that stereotype and the stigma is always surrounding me in everything I do. And so to be able to just be a student and be in a position to learn and grow and given that space was so incredibly important for me. And now I'm actually at UMBC and thriving, and I work at the Student Disability Services on campus, and I have been accepted and supported is the real word that was in my head when I wrote this, because I'm going to school for social work and psychology. The whole point is because I want to work with people coming out of prison and give them the same kind of support and encouragement, because one little mistake in your past shouldn't define your whole life. And I feel that transfer students, there's going to be a lot of people that are in my situation that are trying to move on, to progress. And this gave me such a great opportunity. And everyone that I've met has been so wonderful. And I can say now that I have like 3 doctors at UMBC that appreciate me and go, "Oh my gosh, Kimmy, hey!" Like let me tell you, it's the little things. So I just have to appreciate everyone that I've met, and I thank you for letting us have this opportunity to speak.
Thanks so much, Kimmy. And we are going to now turn it over to Pilar. So if you could pop the slide to public science. Oops.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Pilar, why don't you go ahead
Just
and
introduce
introduce
myself.
yourself while I get it going in the right
Yeah,
place?
of course. Hi guys, my name's Pilar. I'm actually a nursing student at Howard Community College. I intend to be a transfer to UMBC. Speaking of which, I just submitted my application this morning. So yes, I intend to go for biological sciences because, as I touch upon in my public science spiel, I'm really big into research and science within itself. So this degree will help implement my bachelor's of nursing degree, which will help me become a research nurse. Okay. So as I just was more in the public science domain, I actually participated with Sarah throughout our UMBC and HGC collaboration that went from July to August 2020. And within this, we focused in on 3 weeks for bird counts and analysis, as well as environmental analysis of insects, particularly spiders that were just in our neighborhood. And if you didn't catch me saying July to August 2020, that was when COVID was the most prominent in our community. So helping my group become citizen scientists in our own home and accumulating data on different online databases like iNaturalist and eBird really helped me conceptualize the concept of citizen science and public science. And it really helped me reel in how anybody can be a citizen science and how if you are adding anything to data collection, you are considered a scientist, which I think is very important in our community because the more data and science, the better. So throughout my research time at UMBC, after the ending of the collaboration, I actually got to work with Dr. Kevin, who is a prominent UMBC faculty member, on our bird observations and analysis for different Caribbean bird species on Caribbean islands, particularly the island Martinique and the Western Antilles. And besides that, I actually got this really cool opportunity to go into HGC's undergraduate research program with one of my friends and my fellow co-intern, Mary. And we actually have a publication for Dr. William Breedis, who is also a UMBC alumni. He got his PhD there for the Manjuba sexta in their different behavioral categories with feeding. So since I described my research opportunity, I would like to give a little bit of background on myself. I'm a very stereotypical run-of-the-mill, or at least I was, undergraduate student. I graduated high school with over a 4.0 and actually went to my top choice school. But within 2 years, I realized that the type of research that I was doing, which was paleoecological research, wasn't necessarily for me. And I wanted to focus more on health sciences. So transferring back and being a research transfer and going back to HGC really helped me implement what I wanted. And it really helped me discover my passion for health sciences and combine that with biological sciences in order to become an aspiring research nurse. So even though my journey has been complex and I would have never imagined myself going to community college when I was 17, applying for different colleges, I think it happened for a reason. And I'm very, very glad that the UMBC HGC collaboration was actually introduced to me, because if I didn't have that, I would have never realized how much of a community is present at UMBC, because I've gotten so much out of that internship, not only from, as Sarah said, compensation and research experience, but also just the faculty members being so friendly. This is my 4th conference, I think, Sarah, I've done with you over the past 2 years after the conclusion of my initial internship. And even working with Dr. Kevin Omlin on bird species and bird analysis, he actually took the data that we had and presented it in front of Princeton University and actually got a bird that was originally in the near endangered species to critically endangered, just from my observations alone. So this internship and opportunity, especially for public science, has definitely been a very big experience. I'm very thankful for it. And the photos I have on here presented on the slide are just from different research experiences that I have had over this journey. So the top two, which feature my hand and the insects in there, are from my initial research with Dr. Chris Hahn for our initial internship. And then the rest of the pictures are for my HGC research that resulted in the publication. So I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, I applied to UMBC today. I hope I get in, and I want to continue research, obviously, at UMBC. But I'm just very thankful for this experience. And I have a lot of comfort and knowledge now going back to a four-year college at age 22. And I do have a lot more confidence in what I want to do. So yeah, that's it for me.
So well said, students. And you can see how everybody sort of started their journey in a different place with a different set of experiences and identities, and how this experience shaped their evolving understandings of disciplines, their evolving understandings of themselves. Certainly, it gave us an opportunity to enrich our lives by getting to know the students as they came in. As you can see also from the students, there is they do experiences at different times. So as you saw, Kimberly did hers right before she came into UMBC. Pilar did hers a couple of years before coming to UMBC. But you can also see, and Danielle the same way. So the range of time that students participate in the projects can change, and that's okay, because it gives them an opportunity to really explore their trajectory in the way that makes the best sense for them. But I love the way in which Pilar and many of the others talked about this idea of public science, public history, public stories, and the way in which we can all engage in it, right? It's not just important for academics, but it's really important as we think about our civic roles in community as well. And that was really one of our goals, was to think about how these disciplines work together with community to create these historical, ecological, digital stories. And as you can tell, these students have done a great job with this. I just wanted to end before we go to questions, and we're pretty much right on time, which I'm happy to say. This matters. These kinds of experiences matter for so many reasons. But I wanted to go back to the institutional role that we started out the presentation with. I said, you know, we as institutions have a responsibility to further the aspirations of our students. And this matters too, because it's not just about the experiences, you know, their initial experiences, but it's the fact that we want them to continue to succeed, to be retained, graduate, and go on to live civically involved, rich lives. And so it really, the way in which we collaborate with our partner institutions really matters. Students know that we know about their institutions and the faculty they've had and the places that they've been, and it makes a difference. So on that end, I'm really going to turn it back to you in the audience to ask anybody on the panel any questions, faculty or students. And we have about, I think, 8 minutes left for anybody to ask any of those questions, and we'll do our best to respond.
I was going to try to raise my hand virtually, but it didn't quite work. My name is Kylie Mulder. I'm the Associate Director of Transfer Recruitment at the University of Redlands, small private liberal arts institution in Southern California. And I just love hearing that collaboration and the not just the partnership, but really tying in almost that kind of community aspect, and that for us, we require community service learning of all of our graduates. And so it's really exciting to see how you could pair something with the community college and the four-year institution, kind of bringing it down to brass tacks of where did you get the funding? Where did this stem from? You know, who's paying for the course? And so just thinking of how something like this could be so exciting for an institution like ours, but we are small. Transfers sometimes aren't priority on our campus. And so just thinking about like a brass tacks kind of how did this all evolve? Yeah.
Can I jump in there, Sarah? So, and then I think Sarah and Jamie may want to too. Kylie, that's the $1,000 question, right? So you have to have somebody with vision, and that was Sarah Jewett for us, and somebody who is really good at cobbling together money from maybe different constituencies and different departments on campus. Sarah Jewett and I applied for a Bridging Theory to Practice grant to fund the history program last summer. It didn't fund all of it, but it funded a chunk of it. And one thing I should say is that our students, we wanted everybody to be able to attend this program, so we paid stipends to the students so that they weren't large, but that, you know, it was something that they weren't necessarily unable to do this program because they had to work. So, so that felt very important to us. Our faculty also kind of gave of their time. They were paid a little bit, but again, a lot of this was you know, kind of putting their values where they're instead of getting a big paycheck for that. So we'd love to talk with you about ideas about putting together some funding models, but it is something that I think we all need to think about. You know, a lot of transfer money is put into, again, those transfer fares, right? Could this actually be a better way of utilizing some of those funds?
And I would just add to that quickly is we were fortunate also to be at a place where the leadership of our institution also invested in the visibility of transfer success. And so we started out with seed money from our provost's office to think about how we could be innovative with our transfer population so that we could really start thinking about what are all the ways we already offer to support transfer students, and then where are some of these places where, you know, nothing is being done, right? And we felt like, particularly with students who were prospective students at the community college, they had a lot of people saying, you know, oh, you should come to us. Oh, no, you should come to us, right? Because that's sort of the model of transfer fairs. And I mean, and many people do a phenomenal job. I'm not talking about the admissions folks who do an absolutely amazing job of representing our institution, but I feel like when we're talking with students sort of informally, we're telling them, right? And we wanted to show them. And so when you give that sort of explanation as investing in your future community, everybody gets something out of it. Like the faculty members who have done this in environmental science say it's so great because the students come in and they know our labs, they already know our research, and they hit the ground running, right? And so you have to think about the win in a bigger way. I know that sort of feels like, oh, right, but how do we actually get it to work? But Amy's right, we are financial cobblers, right? We take a little money here and a little money there. The seed money enabled us to really get going. And then, you know, particularly with the humanities and social sciences, right? The money's not as big as STEM. So we have to pull and a little bit from here and a little bit from there. But also I think faculty would rather do this than transfer fairs, as Amy said too. So it's shifting where the money currently goes. And not that transfer fairs aren't important, but maybe there's a better way for faculty to be involved than go to transfer fairs. Admissions do a fantastic job of doing that. What other ways so it's shifting and cobbling. And I want to turn it over to Jamie really quickly in our last couple minutes to talk about how they fund their model.
So our original vision was for on-campus internships for our students, because we do have some fabulous external internships, but what we were finding is that many of our students couldn't access them either because of transportation, but more specifically because they either had to give up income to participate in them, or the time that they lost in transportation meant that they couldn't do it and they couldn't live their lives and support their families in the process. So we were looking for a way to have fantastic, rich experiences that would professionally develop our students, give them wings, while also meeting their financial realities. And as we have Danielle here, in particular, some of the students that we have, the populations that are not represented, such as our international students and DACA students who cannot access funds from the traditional places. So that was our original vision. And then we applied for an innovation grant, which was part of our seed money. And then some of our sustaining money comes from our Paul Peck Humanities Institute, where our internship is housed. And that provides for some of the funding for my colleague and I. And then recently, we've applied for a second innovation grant, this time at UMBC. And that is currently funding our new wing with computer science and our new pilot there. So we have also cobbled money together, and we also know that the future is not necessarily guaranteed and uncertain, and we're continually looking for funding and ideas and resources, etc. And I know that there's several of you who are asking the faculty advocate question in the chat, and I want to honor that. And just my quick soundbite on that is, and this is exactly what Sarah said to me when we were introduced, is that she was interested in building enduring relationships with human beings that were part of institutions, but also transcended them. And that has been transformational. So I'll end my comments there.
I don't know if I could jump in real quick, but
I may kick us out in a minute, but go ahead.
So as somebody who's, a visiting lecturer in the department, but also somebody who was a reverse transfer in California and went through some of this, Kylie, I think my experience with this was pretty much limited to, do you or do you not adhere to the GETC plan? Will you be going through the sort of progress that we put in front of you? And of course, that's from a big bureaucracy, but, coming to UMBC, the interest and the passion for bringing students through was so thrilling, not just as a former community college student, but as now a faculty member, that I don't think any of this could have happened without the enthusiasm of our faculty and the sort of departments that are willing to give us opportunities like this. So I imagine where there's a will, there's a way. And I would give anything to have been back in California with a four-year institution, willing to open their doors and give me the opportunity to succeed and to prove myself rather than checking off a list. So.
And I think that's a great phrase to end on, is that opportunity to succeed. And you can see that we opened the doors, but boy, these students came in and really made the most of their opportunity and taught us a lot in the process. So thanks to everybody here. Please feel free to reach out to us with any kinds of questions. We are happy to respond to you over email or in another kind of format. So have a great conference experience. Thank you.
Hi guys. Thank you so much.